Welcome to Tech Talk, where we talk to interesting tech entrepreneurs and people with interesting tech developments. And this morning, I'm joined by Nick De Beer, who's the director, founder, and owner at Fortis X. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you so much for having me on your program.
Well, it's great to talk to you, and I'm particularly interested in the solution that Fortis X has developed. It's a plastic, biodegradable plastic that your company has formed and created that creates completely biodegradable plastic containers. And the situation in the world today is that there are something ridiculous like 14 million tons of plastic landing up in the ocean every single year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when one considers how light plastic is, it's actually a frightening amount of plastics. And not only that, our own river systems and water systems, and anyone who drives around Joburg can see that it's looking more and more like a plastic dump. So it's a fantastic development. But would you want to chat to us a bit about yourself? What brought you to developing plastics, and exactly tell us a bit about Fortis X and the products that you provide?
Yeah, thank you very much, Greg. So we started quite a few years ago, and we actually started in the medical space. We are still in the medical space. We provide various surgical products to Mediclinic, Netcare, Life hospitals, both in South Africa and Namibia. And being in that space, we noticed just how much plastic waste is generated. Being part of the guilty party initially, we were sort of contributing to the problem as many of our devices were supplied to the hospitals were predominantly plastic at that time. And as such, we knew that something had to be done about it. In addition to that, Greg, we also had the pleasure of spending time on the Berg River in the Western Cape, and we've had great times there. And we always noticed the sort of general buildup of plastic waste around the river as well. So for me personally, it was really quite an alarming call to action. And then coupled with that, in 2018, the Western Cape experienced its water crisis. Um, at that point, all sorts of alternatives now needed to be in place. We were already in the manufacturing space at that time for the medical devices. And now with the Western Cape scrambling around looking for water and bottled water options, that sort of led us to now trying to develop something that would both solve the plastic waste crisis, and something that was also interesting that came up was to avoid glass, which is an interesting take on it, which a lot of people sort of don't know. Um, a lot of the hospitality trade and other parties wanted something that was now shatterproof, was not heavy, bulky, and the price of glass being as expensive as it is. Certainly, the call was to try and come up with something now that could solve the problem as well as being cost effective as far as possible. So our story sort of started there. And we went on the hunt now to find biopolymers that would do the job, that would tick all of those boxes. And certainly that was no easy feat. We first found all the wrong stuff. We tried importing various materials and resins. All of that didn't work. So a lot of failure in the beginning, and a lot of hard graft and sitting with chemical engineers in the Netherlands was where I spent a lot of my time to develop the right formula, and we're very fortunate to have come across the correct compounds. And we've been able to launch Africa's first biodegradable bottle made entirely from sugarcane plants. So by 2020, we'd now finalized the recipe. Of course, then that also wasn't great because that was lockdown. But by the end of 2020, this hit the market in quite an expansive and accelerated manner.
So, just in terms of the actual product, you say it's 100% manufactured from sugarcane. There's no
Yeah.
additives, there's no additional bits and pieces. It's all sugarcane based.
So it looks, feels, and functions very similar to its plastic counterpart, but there's not a drop of petroleum byproduct in here. There's no fossil fuel source, but the resin has been polymerized and perfected into such a way that we are able to produce both bottle and cap from entirely sugarcane resin. So what's exciting about that is that it also pushes us into the microplastic free arena, meaning that
Yes.
there's simply no microplastics that can get into whatever the product is that is bottled. So initially we started with our water partners, but it's now expanded to juice, to dairy, to other industries as well. Of course, if you can produce a bottle with something like this, you can do a lot more with it than just that, which
Yes.
makes it quite an exciting horizon ahead of us.
And currently, your manufacturing, is that all happening in South Africa? And where are your plants? And I would imagine you must have a fairly substantial relationship with sugarcane growers.
Yeah, so had very close ties with Umfolozi Sugar in Natal. I don't know if we're still allowed to call it that, but around the Durban region.
Yes.
And yeah, our factory is here in Cape Town, which has been great. It's led to a lot of job opportunities and employment opportunities. We've managed to put together quite a sophisticated team. And yeah, the production is in full swing. So the products are already available for South Africa. And we've had some export opportunities as well. Surprisingly, Greg, Rwanda has been one of the most forward-thinking countries in Africa that we've come across. And certainly some substantial exports have happened there to the hotel and hospitality industry. They order from us small amenities bottles, which come in a 50 ml and 100 ml. Um, and Rwanda has actually banned single-use plastic. Of course, that is a trend that we hope to follow and hope to see in South Africa. We certainly think that that's the future, given the global crisis that we're seeing coming along.
So the other thing about your product is that it is now certified by the European Standards Authority. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the laboratory called DINCertco, they provide an official certification for anybody that claims to have a biodegradable product. A company would need to pass their tests and get their reports to say that it's a bona fide certified biodegradable product. And Greg, when we speak about biodegradable, we sort of venture down the route of saying that it's compostable because what leads to the degradation is the microbial activity that happens in the soil, in the compost. And something that's quite exciting is that the product is completely gone within 1 month of composting. So that's both bottle
One
and
month.
cap. 1 month, yeah, compared to the hundreds of years for the plastic alternative. So very, very
That's
exciting.
fantastic. And tell me, in terms of in water, will it degrade in water as well?
So the tests are still underway regarding what the decomposition time is in water. But of course, with the bottles needing to hold water, juice, dairy, and other liquids, we have opted for a slightly more durable resin that does not degrade in the presence of water. So if you have a bottle of water or a bottle of juice, you don't need to worry about any leaching of the material that's the bottle wall going into the liquid. So that was a leaching and migration test that was done. And that was done by Intertech Laboratories in Germany to prove that there's no movement of material from the bottle into the liquid.
And that's something that a lot of people are not aware of, is that in normal standard plastic bottles, you do get leaching. You actually, over time, you get a degradation of the plastic that actually infiltrates whatever's inside the bottle.
Yeah, and something that would accelerate that is leaving a plastic bottle of water in the sunlight. That also
Yes.
tends to accelerate that effect.
Yeah, and microplastic, it's something that people are not that aware of, but the reality is that it's starting to infiltrate everything. There's a lot of talk about how much microplastic, and microplastic are tiny bits of plastic that as the plastic break down, it still remains in pieces. There's statistics that show there's a lot of that in the ocean, on beaches, in rivers, on in all sorts of things, and even humans are starting to absorb it in their bodies. And the although I don't know if you can maybe provide some insights, but there may be some health issues around.
Absolutely. So, something that has reached scientific and medical journals now is that in the fetus, of a mother, of a pregnant mother. They're already finding microplastics in the fetus. And then beyond that, Greg, we're also finding out that even from the clothes that we wear, people are getting a microplastic sort of abrasion.
So, other than just doing bottles at the moment, I'm assuming there's a lot of applications for this type of material. And you say that's the only one in Africa. There must be a big market for you to go and capture.
Greg, so we're certainly seeing many African countries coming to the table in terms of what they would like us to produce for them. Our particular compound blend is such that we can produce anything rigid from the compound blend. So that has led us into various devices for mining and agriculture. There's quite a bit of packaging as well that is done in and around those two spheres, which is very niche. It does not fit anything that you've ever seen before. It's tailor-made to the applications. And Greg, certainly we want to see quite a larger prevalence of this in the medical field. So there are quite a number of devices that we're able to produce, which are used every day in our hospitals and more slightly more in surgery than just the sort of general syringes and those kinds of things. Although something like a syringe is an example of what we could produce. It is rigid, the compounds would be able to be stretched to those limits. So extremely exciting in terms of what's coming in, let's say, the next 5 years. And we're tackling it as it comes. For example, we've recently been asked to produce a shaving cream container, and all the components of the shaving cream container, they look like plastic, but they're made from a biodegradable sugarcane resin.
That's quite amazing. Tell me, just in terms of creating extra markets for yourself, could you provide this resin, for instance, to existing plastic makers? Could you provide it to people who are creating bottles, and could they use it on existing manufacturing equipment? I mean, there's some of these companies that produce hundreds of thousands of plastic containers daily. Is this something that could be expanded that way? Does it need specialized equipment? Talk to us a bit about that.
We need quite a bit of licensing, so we do have the intellectual property now, both around the compound and then also the changes to the machinery. What we have found so far is that standard plastic machinery just simply won't be able to process these polymers. So there are quite a few changes, tweaks, upgrades that are required. But Greg, yeah, I think it's a global problem and it needs global partners. It needs more converters getting into the space. So certainly we are all for it in terms of a green light for more green product out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is something that I think it's just a growing headache globally. And the more people that come on board with these type of advances in terms of biodegradable products, the better. Nick, well, I can only wish you everything of the best. I think there's a great opportunity to grow and expand, and look forward to hearing some more about you further on down the road. And hopefully, you've expanded into more African territories and into more industries. And wish you everything of the best.
Yeah, thank you very much, Greg.